who think it's cool to go into this party with these niggas who ran away from home or left the crib and ain't telling their mama because they leading with their pussy because they talking about some WAP shit and they get in there with their wet ass pussy. These niggas run a train on them raw. And now this bitch got all kinds of shit. And then now she turned out and ain't nobody there to save her. WAP ain't gonna save that bitch. You feel me? So I'm telling you, I'm sorry for being so vulgar, but I just wanted to, speak the language of the hoes, Understand, approach it from all points. We've been dancing the hoes in this house for a long time. Like in Chicago, on every block club, block party, motherfuckers throwing a percolator, throwing a house mix, and hoes in this. There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this. Nigga, we been on that. We been up that since kids, since babies, knee high. Babies, that shit ain't nothing new. But at the same time, too, living on a block was actual hoes. Like not sexy strippers. Like not she bad. Like they ain't bad. Like these hoes do not look good. Like they fat, they slim, they whatever. Whatever works. Because all niggas care about is getting their dick sucked. So when you see that in the reality of that, make a stand at the store to the snow thaw, right? Like that shit, that life, Hunter's Point, all that shit, the what goes behind the scenes of the strip club, they ain't got no, this how it is. They bodies are so fucked up that they can't strip because ain't nobody finna pay to look at that shit. Right? All niggas is only paying to fuck. With that said, that's what you see. So you've danced, you doing a percolator in the parking lot to hoes in this house, right? And then you look on the block and you actually see actual hoes in the life that they live. And they getting bodies getting found at the school. They having babies and got to throw the baby in the garbage. Like all kinds of shit. Then you see, Lil' Kim and, bitches who just like to fuck. And they just want to throw their pussy around and, put their titties out and do that. Like, and that's another level of it. It was like, oh, okay. But then you see actual like high class, well-protected, beautiful whores, right? It's just like, this is what we do. We protect it. It's an organization. We might have the mafia protecting us or some shit like that in real life. And we only fuck with people 1,000, 5,000. We're not turning tricks for $20 in the alley. But it's levels to that, right? It's a whole nother level of that. You go to China or you go to China and hoes got tattoos. Like, man, that tattoo is dope. Like, nigga, that's not a tattoo. That's a serial number because she works at the House of the Golden Dragon. That's what that tattoo is, right? And all them hoes got the tattoo. Like, oh, shit. You go in there, they holding up numbers. It's like, I want number 8 and number 27. Like you at McDonald's, but you ordering hoes. That shit real. It's real, right? And if young women aren't educated to the full story of how the whole game really works, how bitches really work, they can find themselves in very horrible places, turning tricks with very horrible niggas and horrible women who treat them like shit. And if you're going to be a sex worker, it's levels to sex work. The sex workers know this. I wish we had some sex workers to chime in so we could talk about this shit. They know how this shit, I'm not saying anything that's not true. I've actually, just trust me when I tell you, I'm not saying anything that is not true right now. It's levels to this fucking whole shit. And there's parts of it where it's like, yeah, you can be in Amsterdam and be protected and have rules and laws and shit like that. So that's a whole nother different ball of wax than working the streets of fucking southern Italy, right? Where it ain't no rules, right? And you ain't got no fucking passport and you trying to work off some weird ass debt you got to suck 10,000 dicks to get back to Africa. Like, don't get it fucked up. And it ain't just far-strung places. It's a whole different thing to be working the clubs of Atlanta versus working the streets of Atlanta. Right? Which hole you trying to be? Because there's some holes in them clubs who ain't finna touch them streets. Because they ain't built for them streets. Them streets will eat them alive. And them holes in the streets, they not built for the club. Literally not built to go in there and strip because ain't nobody finna look at that shit. So, that's just my conversation on WAP. Please tell the full story. And everybody want to talk about this. So let's talk all the way about it. All the way. So, any questions, comments, concerns? Do you think it would be better if prostitution were legalized? It's legal prostitution in different places, but you'll never be able to completely criminalize prostitution. You'll never be able to completely get rid of it. Like prostitution, like they say, is the world's oldest profession. I think that's a myth. I don't think that's the world's oldest profession. I think the world's oldest profession was probably the nigga who was really good at going out in the woods and finding berries. And then he came back and was like, you're going to have to give me that tent. And it was like, fuck. I think that was the world's oldest profession. Then he became some pussy. But nah, man, it's not a problem. It's not in some issues, it's an issue of legalization, because legalization then brings in all of these laws, right? Like laws and rights and protections and stuff like that. So that would be the case if it was legal, so to speak. But at the same time, too, in cases where you don't have laws and that shit, it's still not like it's a horrible profession, right? It's still like the protections are provided by your pimp or your madam or your mob or the dude who runs the cat house or whatever the fuck it is. Like there's going to be a certain level of protection and security provided. Maybe not as extensive as if it was like a legal recognized profession by like the government or some shit like that. But again, you know, it's still like a slippery slope. But again, it depends on what level you're entering into the whole game. If you're coming into the whole game from the bottom, like it's going to be fucked up for you, whether it's legal or not. Right? Because you're gonna find yourself sucking all types of nasty, just fat niggas' dicks. It's not good for you. Right? And niggas who really just look at you as a disposable piece of whatever, and then once they get done with you kick to the fucking curb. Right? Once your pussy blown out, you catch some shit and you can't get rid of that shit. Like, yeah, niggas will dump you in the fucking street. And hoes. So when I say nigga, like, and the madams, like the women who actually run this shit, right? Who they sent in to go recruit the girls and bring them in. Like Epstein wasn't walking around his cell, walking around the park picking hoes out. He had this white bitch going to get, that was the madam. So there's no difference with that, right? So I think if you give niggas the whole game and really lay it out and not just show the glamour of the shit, the over sexualization, the over glamorization of the shit, and you really gonna talk about what hoeing really is and the full scope of it, not just the beautiful shit and wearing lingerie and shit like that, popping your ass and twerking. Like, show the whole thing. Show the upsides, the dark sides of that shit. I'm sure Cardi B went through some shit, and she talked about going through some shit. So it becomes like, you know, that, and I hope that she would make a song that not only talks about WAP, but also the consequences of WAP when you do that shit wrong, right? And where you can find yourself, you know, in the hands of a fucking serial killer strangling you in the back of a fucking car, right? Because that's part of the shit too. She doesn't have to, though. Yes, I would hope that she did. You know, I would hope that any woman who puts themselves out like that we got into this shit about rapping, right? Like, you just being a response, you could still be a woman who likes to fuck and still be responsible, understanding the consequences. Like, you can talk. Remember when Common was like, I'm conscious, but I still like to get my dick sucked? You can still be that in that role that you have in the visible space of society, in your public space. Like, you can be a bitch and a slut, but you can also tell the full story of when being a slut goes wrong, right? And I think that's important, especially to your audience. When you look at people's audience, the grown people ain't listening to that shit. Kids is listening to that shit. So kids is getting their education from that shit. I learned so much shit about hoes from Willie D and Too Short. It's crazy. But then I didn't have to, but then they only ran for it because I could open up my window and look and see a hoe on the corner. And then a pimp with a hen walking up in the middle in broad daylight. Flat, we waiting to see if she gonna pop titties. I was like, oh, you just seen her titties or pussy? Oh, fucking 9 years old looking at this shit. But I think it's important to show the other side of that equation, right? And I will hope that people will be responsible enough to do that. And like I said, I felt like Cardi has done that in certain interviews, but never in a song, right? Not that I've heard as popular as WAP. Like even the third verse of WAP could have been, but be careful, bitches, because you could end up strangled in the back of a fucking van, trying to WAP out with some niggas who turned out to be, some shit went bad and they had to get rid of you type shit. And it's like, wait, what do you mean? But what does that have to do with the, what? Who's responsible to educate these women the difference in the other side? I mean, I hope that it would be your teachers. I hope that you go to school and you get to sex education class and it's the full sex education class. And they bring in a pimp to tell them, like, look, I'm a pimp. This is my job. This is what I do. This is the people that I look for. Here's the people that I kind of motivate. Here's what they already come to the table with. Here's what I can kind of put on their table. Here's the type of customers that we're looking for. Here's the type of profit margins we're trying to have. Here's the work that you're going to need to do to reach XYZ. This is how we're going to break down. This is going to be my role. This is going to be your role. And, we're going to expand this out. Here's your competition. Here's the prime real estate. Here's if we want to work out of clubs or if we want to work out of, do we want to work privately off a website? Like how we want to do this? We want to do some escort shit. Are we doing some, like, are you down to shit on a nigga's chest and then put it on a plate and feed him your own shit? Like, are you down to do shit like that? Cause the dude will pay you 10 grand if you want to do that right now. Are you down? Like that shit. The funny part, this is crazy. Ask my mama. Ask Mama Fiasco if you think that I'm lying. This is where we grew up, literally on our street, was the H0ES stroll. Madison was the H0ES stroll for decades. That's what Madison Street was. Like you went to Madison Street to pick up hoes, right? Same people like go to Hunters Point to pick up hoes, I guess in New York or whatever, right? Like niggas came through the West Side to get hoes, right? And any given day you out there, they just on a corner. Like you think it's a woman standing there waiting on the bus, and she's not waiting on the bus because the bus already came and she ain't got on, right? Or when the bus starts to come, she walks away from the bus stop and then walks back. But the bus stop, we got 2 bus stops right in front of our house, one on our side of the street on this corner, and then one on the corner on the other side of the street. And it's just like, these are hoes. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So ask Mom Dukes. Look, there go Mama right there. Mama said I used to offer them. There go my mama right there. She says I used to offer them refuse. Right? They used to come into the crib. I remember you let some woman in the crib, right? For sure, let one of the prostitutes in the crib because something was happening. Somebody was beating her up or something like that. I remember that because our apartment was right on the street, like right there. We faced Madison Street. So anyway, that's what I think about WAP. And if you were wondering what I think about WAP, that's what I think about WAP. I don't mind the self-expression. I don't mind the freeness. I don't mind the, owning your sexuality. But also I think if you're understand like what you're saying, like the first words on that song is there's some hoes in this house. Hoes are prostitutes. Prostitute life ain't where it's at. That ain't where the fuck it's at. Stripping, hey, understand that strippers be prostituting too. Like, understand that that's the other part of the game. Like, you get in there and it's, we picking dollars up off the fucking floor. These niggas might have threw $200, but it's a nigga in the back that's ready to fuck for like $300. Mama said she fed them, gave them clothes. They are human too. Look at mama. I'm not letting my mama in on you with you animals in the chat. Thoughts on OnlyFans? I'm not mad at OnlyFans. I'm not mad at this. The kicker. I'm not mad at OnlyFans. I'm not mad at porn. I'm not mad at stripping. Right? I'm lightweight mad at prostitution, because when it goes bad, it goes all the way bad. Right? Because when you're a kid and you hear about they finding bodies up at the school because this prostitute got stabbed to death, you're like, oh shit, wasn't that the lady who was just across? So the person that you seen the other day kind of had, hey, what's going on, prostitute lady? And then they found her body in the back of the school. You like, oh shit, that ain't cool. But yeah, I'm not mad at OnlyFans. I'm not mad at none of that shit. Like that, people expressing themselves in an environment that they control, and doing the things that they want to do because they want to do it. Like, knock yourself out, But it's a difference when you promote that lifestyle to the general public in a very glamorized way without showing the other side of it, right? There's porn stars who come out of porn and they'll tell you straight up, like, some of that shit was wild fun because I like to have sex. The other side of that equation is some people got their shit fucked up. Like, it wasn't as cool as you thought. It was, the porn shit was some extension of some pimp prostitution shit, that madam shit, and it was looking at some quick money and whatever the forces at play. But some people don't make a career out of that shit. Some people do. But anything that keeps people safe, I'm cool with it. If OnlyFans is is the place where people can go to still express their sexuality without getting it in the street or putting themselves in some type of dangerous situations and shit like that. That shit's great. I forgot that lady's name. I think it was Kelly or Karen. I forgot her name. Because I think we used to know their names. Lupe, you got any new music we can enjoy? Yes, now that you mention it, House EP. House is myself and Kaylin Ellis is available right now on Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, Tidal, YouTube Music, Pandora even. So check it out. Go to lupefiasco.com for links. Apple Music. All right, what other questions do we have? Can that be the last that y'all asked me about WAP? That is the final on WAP. That's what I think. This is what it is. Shout to Cardi B and fucking Meg The Stallion. Rock on with the hoes, and shout to the hoes out there. Hey, protect yourself at all times and keep it moving. So that's all I got to say. Spread that around. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed the Grubhub set. Shout out to Grubhub for putting that together. Shout out to Umi and DJ 00, Jimmy, and all the homies who put that together. Appreciate it.